Hello, everyone. Thank you to all those that have joined. My name is Amir Latif. I'm the Vice President of Sales at Sonocent. The webinar today, I'll be joined by Robert Spangler, who's the Disabilities Services Technical Support Specialist at University of Dayton. And I'm also joined by my colleague, Hannah, who will be taking questions via the chat box. So feel free to type in your questions at that point. We will be providing the closed caption version of this afterwards to everyone too. So feel free to let us know if you'd require that, and also the handouts for the webinar too. So before we get started, just wanted to let you know what we're going to talk about today, actually. So as I've already introduced Robert and myself, we will run actually a poll questionnaire that I wanted to launch just to get everyone's thoughts in terms of note-taking and where you are at with regards to that and issues you have faced with regards to note-taking at your institution. Then Robert will go through his presentation, at which point, towards the end of this, we will get a chance to look at the a demonstration of Sonocent. Time permitting, I'm hoping we will get probably about 10 minutes or so to get any questions that you have for Robert, where we will be able to answer those directly. So in the meantime, also, if you do want to type questions while the webinar is going, Hannah is answering those questions directly via the chat box. So I'm just going to launch the poll now, first poll for you guys. And the poll really is to do with what does your institution currently provide for note-taking support? So excellent. I'm just going to share those results with you guys. And as we can see, there's quite a substantial majority that utilize peer note takers to one extent or another, whether they're paid or volunteers. There are portions that are offering digital voice recorders. In some cases, you'll probably be offering a combination of these things too. Some smart pens, and there are a few others that have been mentioned. So one other question I wanted to launch to you guys, and this one is going to be, so bear with me a second. Is about the issues, actually. So it's about what are the most common issues surrounding your current note-taking accommodations. So if you could populate answers that closely fit into what you feel are some of the issues with regards to the issues you're facing on note-taking accommodations, that'd be very good. Okay, once again, thank you for sharing those with us. Interesting results here, a little bit mixed in the responses. they've been split between the administration for the note takers, which I've heard quite a lot from a lot of other institutions, how difficult it can be to administer that, to organize it also. The creating the dependency within students. There are some answers that focused around also the poor quality of notes provided by note takers and also the cost element, assuming that's on the paid note takers. So very interesting results here in terms of the responses and some of the issues that you guys are facing. Now, what's not surprising is that through quite a lot of the webinars or the conferences that I've participated in, there's a common theme in terms of the responses we do get. What I wanted to do now also is bring in Robert, and I'm just gonna, Robert, if you could just test your mic now, and you should be unmuted now.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
So, Robert, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to actually maybe just explain a little bit about University of Dayton and also possibly your role, what you do at University of Dayton.
Okay, so the University of Dayton is a smaller, well, small to medium-sized private Catholic university. We're located in Dayton, Ohio. We have about 8,353 undergraduate students and 2,196 graduate students. So, you know, good size. And I would say about 900 or so of those students are registered with accommodations in our office. And that number continues to increase.
Okay.
And my role, so as Amir said, I'm the Disability Services Technical Support Specialist. So basically, I handle everything in our office that is relevant to assistive technology. So book requests, training for software, assistive technology software, and those sort of things. In addition to that, I also do all the IT work for our office.
Okay. Okay. And in typically in a semester, how many students request note-taking accommodations from yourself?
Oh, specific numbers for note-taking? Probably, no, I just sent a mass email out to everybody for alternative text yesterday, maybe about 150 to 200 or something like that.
Got it.
Sorry, I don't have that exact number on hand right now.
Okay, okay. One thing I wanted to do also was ask you in terms of what University of Dayton offered to students before you guys tried out Sonocent. What was the main provisions that you were offering?
So prior to Sonocent being an option, most of our students would record their notes or their classes on a USB digital recorder. Then they could feed that into Dragon, naturally speaking, and get a transcript of it. Also, we offer, and we still offer these things, by the way. We offer the smart pens for students to use as well. We used to do pure note-taking, but that we have not done for a long time. In fact, we've never done that as long as I've been here. Which hasn't been that long, but I mean, it's been almost 2 years.
Okay, so it's a combination of a variety of different AT that you offered beforehand.
Yes, yes.
Okay, and what were some of the issues that you were facing around note taking with those provisions that you were providing?
So none of them really brought all of the material together in the way that Sonocent Audio Note Taker does. So, with an audio recorder, you can record the class. Okay, so you've got a recording right there. Then you might take notes by hand. So you've got another item that you have to deal with. And with the smart pen, you're still writing. With Sonocent, we've found a way, this program allows us to bring all the class material together. So the student could be recording the class, taking notes, and have the PowerPoint or other class materials all on the same device. On the same screen, or what have you, and be able to export that to like an iTunes album or another device to be able to, and the whole idea is that the audio the class materials, the notes they may have taken, are all right there in one thing for them to study later.
Okay. Okay. And in terms of Sonison, obviously, I think it goes back a little bit in terms of when we first crossed paths. How did you actually end up finding out about Sonison, and what led
So,
you to try it on?
so that decision was made prior to my hiring.
Hmm.
Um, we were initially going to get started with it a semester earlier than what we did, but I was new and I was still getting used to everything, so they decided to be easy on me the first semester. Um, but yeah, so they were kind of setting that up before I got here. I'm not exactly sure where I'm sure, my colleagues heard about Sonocent at AHEAD or one of those other professional conferences.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think it was one of your colleagues that I'd met at Ahead. It was going towards 2015 around there, um, whereby we it was the first time we actually launched the pilot program. And
Oh,
you're one of the first institutions that we actually introduced to the pilot program.
oh, cool.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah.
And it was very successful for us.
well, well, actually, it's interesting you mentioned this because what one of the things that I think you do mention is in terms about how you implement it, because a lot of the success of the pilot does come down to implementation.
Yes.
So, could you elaborate in terms of how you actually implemented Sonocent at your institution in terms of the training or what you went through or how you had to introduce it to the students, really?
So it was a multi-step process. The first thing I did was I sent out a mass email to everybody who has the accommodation or the ability to record their classes. So we wanted to make sure that, basically, students, when they get the accommodation, they have to, get permission to record their classes through us. But I was also offering this to students who were not registered to accommodations for the pilot. And so those students, I just mentioned to them that they need to discuss with their professor that they're, recording a class. Um, so that's what I did. I sent out a mass email introducing the product. I had a link to a video, or maybe a couple of videos, and the students could watch those. And then I explained that it was a pilot and that we were looking into purchasing some licenses, and respond to set up an appointment with me if you're interested in trying the program. So I think we did this. Well, this would have been spring of this year, spring semester of 2017. And I started in January. And of course, it's always hard to find a good time, right? Because I was afraid that if I started in January, then I would be, catching them at the beginning of a term, but you just kind of have to pick a time and wing it, right?
Mhm.
So I sent out the mass email and I got some responses, and then people came in, set up about an hour. I think I did an hour for each, and I would install the program for them, explain to them how it worked, that they'd get the 14 days to try it out, and then they had to contact me and let me know if they were interested in extending that. And at this point in time, since it was just the pilot, we were going to, I think it was sometime in the middle of May, perhaps. So, I explained that to them. And then when they left, when they were done, I'd give them a little demonstration on how it worked. I'm blind, so there are some things with the program that are visual, and so I, they were very kind and made me a video to use to demonstrate to the students. But as I got farther along and messed with the program some more, there were some things that I was able to demonstrate to them myself. But I always shared the video just because it was from the perspective of a mouse user instead of a keyboard user, so that would be easier for them to follow. So I always shared that email. Then halfway through, I remember it seems like it's been such a long time ago. I had them I had them complete a survey for me, just asking questions to gauge interest and how useful, the program was to them. And the responses were good overall. There were a couple folks who said that they preferred just writing out their notes, and that's fine. That's our whole goal here, is to be able to offer solutions for different sorts of students. So, obviously students who have disabilities are just different as anyone else. So, um, Some of us may prefer to type our notes and record and such. Others may prefer to just write their notes. So, we want to be able to have a solution that works for all different learning styles. And we consider Sonnet Audio Note Taker to be an addition to that toolbox, that we can offer students. And it's taking off. And I'm trying to remember if there was anything else. Oh, yes. And throughout the pilot, I sent out weekly tips. So I read the whole manual, came up with different things that were useful. The very first thing, obviously, I mean, for me anyway, was to teach the students how to import the PowerPoint so that they can follow along with the lecture and be able to go back and watch it later and see their notes next to it, that they made their notes. So I'd say that's probably, I have about 2 or 3 of the students who are using it right now who participated in our pilot now who wanted to continue with using the program. So it's been well received here.
No, it's interesting because I remember you mentioning sending the weekly tip out, which I found very fascinating in terms of a new feature. So you drip fed the features over to the student. When the student was first exposed to this, I mean, in your experience, your typical students, how long did it take for them to kind of pick up the software or actually adopt it, or at least start using it on the basic level?
I'm not really sure how long it took them. I mean, I did have some students write in with some questions, like some students who had issues with sound, and I was always able to resolve it for them. But I don't really know exactly, because I would give them, I basically, my theory was, you've got the 14 days. If I don't hear, I mean, I would reach out to them, but, there were some students where you just wouldn't hear back from them, right? And I was like, well, I mean, that's the point. That's what I like about the 14-day thing, because if they don't respond to me, I haven't wasted a license, right?
Yeah.
So, but there were some that would not follow up, or and then others, I could always tell the ones that were picking it up really good because they asked a lot of questions.
Okay. I mean, it's interesting for those that are not aware in terms of the 14-day. So the software is managed by a loan license manager. And essentially it's an online portal. What it allows you to do is loan out the license to a student for, say, a defined period of time. The initial default is 14 days, at which point they have to check with the administrator that they are using it. And then the administrator then says, yep, happy for the student to have it. And through the online portal, they can literally say, I can extend this license for the whole semester for the student. The advantage being that at the end of the semester, let's say the student's no longer with the institution, you can actually transfer that license on to another student. So I'm assuming that's what you meant with the 14-day, Robert.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Because if they wouldn't, if they didn't follow up with me, then it would just expire. It wasn't like I was out of a license. So.
And in terms of the results from the pilot, so some of the things that you did say, what's interesting is that you're using what you feel is based on the consultation you do with the students, what's the best fit for the student. One of the things you mentioned in terms of Sonnet and why it worked in your case with the students that it did work for is how you're able to utilize the course materials, so PowerPoint or accessible PDFs and their notes together with the course recordings, a platform to do so. Why was that so beneficial for those students?
I guess that was the main goal, or the main thing that I pulled out of the software when initially evaluating it, and what I felt would be the most helpful for the students. Because I know that a lot of professors now are putting their PowerPoint presentations up on content course management systems. Like here we have Sakai, which we call it Isidore. Other places have Blackboard. So the student could download that, and in a way it kind of forces them to be take more initiative, because they have to download it before they go to class. And then they could upload, they can import it into the project, into the Sonnet into the Audio Note Taker project. So if you guys haven't seen it yet, it's got 3 panes, and one of them, well, you will see it this afternoon, but one of them is an images pane. You import PowerPoint, and it shows it there. And then there's a text pane where you can type notes, and then an audio pane. And as the teacher is speaking and they flip to the next slide, you just hit enter, and you're recording, and every note you type goes along with the slide. So when you go back and watch it later, it's just like you were there in the classroom. And so I felt that that was the most useful. Now, of course, just because I think it's most useful, doesn't necessarily mean anything. So I sent what the tips were ways for me to share other features of the program that people may, the students might find useful. And so every week I would send out a tip that was a different feature in the program. I think I covered all of them, actually, because I remember getting to the end of the manual and like, what's my next tip going to be?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because one thing for those some of you may not be aware is we recently actually released the version 5, which has quite a lot of features added on to this, some of which I'll be able to disclose today within the demonstration. But so you've got a few more tips to discuss now, because we added the scribble feature in there and a few other things, obviously, so which will help.
Yes, that will. And in fact, that's great, because I'm doing the tips again this semester.
Excellent, excellent.
So I'm recycling some, but I'm glad I'll have some to add to that.
So I thought I'd mention a question that's come up right away here. And the question is more about, is the program user-friendly? Now, it's rather than me say the obvious and just say, yep, it's user-friendly, I think it's better that obviously you having used it, and also actually having your students use it. Probably answer that would be probably most appropriate.
Yeah, I think it is. Again, everybody has a different style of learning, and it might not be everyone's solution, but I have students using it here. They love it. They find it to be really useful, and I've not gotten anybody complaining about its user friendliness. So yes, absolutely. Everything is right there in the window. Like when I say it brings all the course material together and stuff, you'll have to actually see it, I guess, maybe to get that. But everything's right there in one screen, so they can really like look at the screen, and all the main functions are on the toolbar, so everything's easy to access.
Got it. Now, another question that's coming, Robert, and this is more to do with your current state right now in terms of how many students are currently using the software within this semester at your institution.
So right now I have 8 registered, and I know that sounds kind of low, but our initial idea was just to provide licenses to students with accommodations. So I was kind of afraid that if we kind of just, freely gave it to people, that I would run out of licenses, and I didn't want to end up doing that. Well, we haven't. So I want to try to open it up more next semester. So it's somewhat of a slow start, but I'm just kind of mapping my way here.
Gotcha. So, which kind of leads me to the next discussion I wanted to have with you, was with regards to your plans for the future and how you're looking to, in terms of the expansion, because I know I've spoken to you about this before.
Yeah.
But if you could elaborate on that actually a little bit, how you're thinking about expanding on this.
So, our disability services office is under the same umbrella as our tutoring departments and our writing center. And I feel like those 2 other, units within our unit would be able to make use of Sonocent. And so I want to discuss with my colleagues, perhaps letting them use licenses for students and making it available to them, because we got like 100 licenses, so I've got plenty more to provide, and I think that maybe even our international programs folks would find it to be very useful.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, and this is something I've mentioned sessions I've done in the past is because the software is designed with UDL principles. Really, one thing we've seen at a lot of the other campuses are starting to do is introducing other departments in. So student support, academic support, international athletics. The idea being is to really benefit any student who wants to take better notes. So is that something that you've kind of looked at also with regards to the other departments?
Um, what exactly?
In terms of exposing it to other departments or introducing it to different departments outside disabilities.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I would like. Well, yeah, that's next.
Gotcha.
Like I said, my initial fear was that I would have like tons of people with disabilities, and the way it works is that we purchased it, you know, with our disability related budgets, and so I had to make sure that anybody who has a disability accommodation has the it's available for them as well first.
Mhm.
Well, now I see that there's plenty left over. I can start, you know, inviting other departments to give it a try.
Excellent, excellent. So, in terms of say some of the institutions that are looking to um, pilot or try out the software, what's some of the advice that you would give with regards to training their students, or particularly students that have been dependent on note takers for a while?
I think the one-on-one concept works the best. If you're able to do a group presentation, that's fine. I know here we had some concerns with that just because of, you know, FERPA and privacy and those sorts of things. They didn't really want me to do group presentations, but you know, they also do the Sonnet. Are you guys still doing the Sonnet 101?
Correct. Every Wednesday. So we had one earlier today, the Sonnet 101s, which is for students.
Okay, so Sonnet has a program called Sonnet 101, which is basically like a live webinar where the students themselves can log in and essentially, I think it's like a half an hour, something like that, and someone from Sonnet will actually show them how it works. So, did that answer the question?
Yeah, no, it's good. And
okay.
One of the things we always, because obviously different institutions have different types of resources. Aside from yourself, did you have anyone else helping you out, or was it just you by yourself, really?
It was mostly me by myself.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Everybody's so busy doing their own thing, you know, so it's kind of hard to. I mean, I put it out there and let people know, but it's hard to get people, you know, sometimes.
Okay. Well, when you do get a chance, also, I'd be interested to get your feedback on. We've created within the software now. I'll get to show it to you, everyone, later on. These new tutorials, and essentially chapter by chapter, it covers a section for a student, and it's interactive. It's very easy for students to follow. So it's designed where if you are in a situation where you are by yourself, such as like Robert was, and you have a lot of students to train, definitely strongly recommend utilizing these because they're very powerful and easy for students to follow, really.
He's right. I actually looked at that the other day. Yesterday, I downloaded the upgrade and installed it on my machine, and it's very much a you know, next previous kind of, you know, view one, their interactive tutorial or video kind of thing, and very helpful.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Robert, I mean, really appreciate that. I mean, the final thing I wanted to kind of discuss with you is really more along the lines of the ethos that University of Dayton took in terms of moving away from the peer note takers at some stage. So why do you feel that the technology offers a better alternative to the peer note takers for your students?
So if you have somebody else taking your notes for you, everybody takes notes in a different way, right? So how I might write notes will be different than how Amir takes notes because certain things will stand out to him that don't stand out to me and vice versa, or, you know, that. And then, of course, you have to be able to read somebody else's notes and understand what they wrote. And then overall, though, to my mind, the more we can encourage the students to take their own notes and provide them the supports to do so, the more we're promoting their independence. And ultimately, that's going to be the most important thing, because when they graduate, they're going to need it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's when you first told me about this, my first reaction to this was, um, what kickback have you received from students that have been wanting to join, or where, let's say students that needed a human note taker, and there wasn't a technology fit for them. How's that been, or how have you guys handled that?
So since I've been here, that's not been a problem. But I know that if it comes down to, so we always say that we will work with a student to, provide what is the best accommodation for them. So if we absolutely get a student where there's no solution, like technology-wise, then I'm not going to say that we would not provide them a human note taker. But our preference would be to find a way where they can independently take their notes.
Okay, and so
Like I said, I wasn't here during, like, when they stopped doing peer note taking. I wasn't here, so I don't know if there was any kind of backlash or anything like that.
Yeah, and that's one thing I was surprised by, is that you did say that you haven't had really too many issues with regards to that, because I don't know if some of the attendees here could actually share with us, with regards to that, or how a student may actually expect certain things with regards to note taking, or their preferences, particularly transition period when they're coming straight from high school over to the universities. From what I've heard, that's one of the most difficult stages in terms of introducing something new to a student.
Well, and I'll tell you, that was really difficult for me, because I didn't have anybody taking notes for me in high school, but I did have somebody handling, getting my Braille books for me, and pretty much being my math tutor, because that was what I struggled with. So when I got to college and I found out that I had to figure out how to get all those things, it was a little bit of a panic for the first few days. So I understand, absolutely.
Roberts, thank you for sharing all this. Really, really appreciate it. If it's okay with you, I'm just about to do a quick demonstration right now of the software. So if you just hang fire, we'll probably take a few questions towards the end of the demonstration, if that's okay with you.
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. So, and once again, everyone, if you can continue typing in your questions to us, Hannah's obviously answering questions, some of those questions for you on the chat box right now. So please continue to do so. At the end, Robert and myself, we will try to get to your questions at towards the end. Time permitting, I will also, you probably overheard us talk about their pilot program at University of Dayton. I will shed some further light in terms of if we're opening this up again, which we are going to be allowing institutions to do another Sonocent free pilot for spring 2018. So I will give you information on that towards the end. So I'm just going to go open up the software now. And one thing I wanted to explain to everyone, for those of you who have not seen Sonocent before, it is a software you would install on your own device. So, and it works on both platforms, PCs and Macs. So the student would install it on his or her device. And once they install it and they open it up, this is the home page. So on your screen now, you should see the home screen. And quickly, navigation tip-wise, you heard me previously mention with Robert about the tutorials. To access those, you'll see this gentleman here in what we call our time machine, where it says Learn. If I click onto that, that takes me to the skills portal. There's a motivational video right above, but if I click on the skills portal, it takes me to different chapters. So the first chapter, and we played along with our theme of the time machine here. There's a reason behind it, but the first one is Dr. Howe, which is chapter 1, and then back to the lecture, which is chapter 2. So definitely suggest, if for your students, it's a really, really powerful tool for them to be exposed to in terms of learning the software for the first time. Now, going back to the software, to go back to the home page, I'll click on New Project, and I'm back at my home page. The software records using the built-in microphone of your device. So the built-in microphone of your laptop, and it does have a companion app. So it does work on smartphones or tablets, so which would be for Android or iOS devices. Now, let's say I was going into class. The first thing I would do is right there where it says blank project, I would just select that. And when I select that, this is the screen that opens up. All the student would do at this stage is right at the top left, see where it says record, they press record. And now you'll see the lecturer's voice, or in this case, my voice, represented by these audio bars. Every time there's a pause in my voice, you'll see that that's where the breaking between the bars is happening. So you almost want to visualize those bars as spoken phrases. Everything's been captured for the students. So the first step in terms of resolving the anxiety and stress for note-taking, you're kind of resolving because it's capturing all the information. The second big thing we wanted to tackle was active listening, really engage with what's being said in class. And the thing that really encourages that, if you look on the right-hand side, you'll see some color highlights here. Now, these are default settings. You can change them if you want. You can have different colors, different words. But in this case, for example, the first one I've got here is the color red, which is important. Now I can either click on this or press 1 on the keyboard. So let's assume at some point in the lecture, the professor said something that's very relevant or that might be on the exam. I just press 1 on the keyboard, and you'll notice as soon as I've done that, those specific bars have now changed to the color red, denoting that this is important. And I always use this quite a lot, which is, it is like using that highlighter pen in a textbook, but you're doing it in real time with actual live audio. The moment it's not important to me anymore, press 1 on the keyboard again, and it goes back to default. By just having that sort of functionality, it's keeping me engaged within the class without adding to stress. I'm not worried about keeping up with the lecturer, trying to scribble my notes down frantically. I'm not worried about that I'm missing anything out. I'm literally paying attention for anything that's relevant or I didn't quite understand, and I can color highlight that part. The other aspect, and Robert touched on this in terms of why it, some of his students felt that it added a lot of value, is you can actually import your PowerPoint slides or accessible PDF straight into this. And you'll notice that in a lot of your lectures, those are provided beforehand. So, and the way you do this is I just go to import right at the top toolbar, scroll down to import slides, and I'm just going to take some example slides here. And there they are. So they populate into the images section there. And now you'll ask, okay, what's the benefit of me doing that beforehand? Well, now let's assume we're in that live environment, that lecture environment. The professor's now moved to the next slide. All I do is press enter on the keyboard, and my audio is automatically aligned to the appropriate slide. And I can still color highlight. So let's say this was a homework assignment. So for that, my color is green, which is number 3 on the shortcut key. And I'll just select that. And this was a homework assignment that was sent over to me. And it moves on to the next slide after that. I just press enter again. So if you look at it from the student's perspective now, they've gone from something of where they had to type or write something to keep up with the class, and more than likely missing out a significant portion of the important items. Now they're not missing anything out. Instead, they're able to retain more information because they actively engage with just denoting things that are relevant or important to them, or things they didn't quite understand so they can review them back. So let's assume the lecture's finished, right? So all the student does now is go to the top left-hand corner, press stop, and right above it is a drop-down arrow key, and you would just save it on your local drive, or you could save it on Google Drive or Dropbox. You can save it on the cloud too. Okay. Once I go back to listen to it, let's say I've gone back to my dorm or my study area and I want to review this. So obviously I want to listen back to my notes and see what it sounds like, review my lectures. So I can click right at the start and press the big green button, the play button right at top. And now you'll see the lecturer's voice, or in this case, my voice, represented by these audio. Okay. And assume that, let's say I was that particular speaker who was either speaking too fast or too slowly. One thing we have done is we have given the facility for students to either slow down or increase the tempo. So I can slow down the speaker's voice even further and play it from there. Audio bars. Every time there's a pause in my voice, you'll see that that's where the whole objective being here is it's allowing me now more time. I'm doing it at my own pace and time to process the information, because in the text area, see this middle pane here? This is the part where I now want to, or we recommend actually, that the students type in their full note summaries. But I'm doing it at my own pace. I'm listening to the audio pieces as I want, slowing it down if I need to, and typing in my note summaries after that. The other things I'm able to do is I'm just going to select a few bars here. Let's say I listened to those and I realized, wait a second, that part was important. I just forgot to color highlight it. All I do is press 1 on the keyboard, and I can color highlight after the fact. I can move the audio bars around anywhere I want. So for example, let's say these bars at the end actually belong with the next slide. I just forgot to press the enter key. That's fine. Select those, and all you do is click, drag, and drop. So you can move those around quite a lot. Now, one thing that you'll probably get is you might have a lot of students, which won't be surprising, that may not want to listen to the entire lecture. And that's fine. That's really the main benefit also of color highlighting, because what they may want to do is just listen to the color highlighted parts. So the easiest thing to do there is you can go to the top toolbar, press extract audio, and I can just extract out those highlighted parts, press OK, and there it is. Now, just to reassure your students, just let them know at the top, the original folder is still there. It doesn't delete your original. It just opens up a new one with that extracted audio. So just now, instead of 2 hours worth of audio, I'm listening to, say, 15 minutes worth. And I can add more layered notes to this. So you can kind of see the scaffolding process the student goes through. Yep. Bear with me a second. Just closed on me for a second there, and I will open it up. It should preserve my recording from before, and it did. Well, shows you the fail-safe mechanism of the software. You plan for these things, I guess. And one other thing I wanted to show to you guys also is a couple of the other features that we've seen students utilize quite a lot. I can open up another pane right at the bottom, which is called the reference pane. It's similar to the text pane. And the benefit of that is I can actually extract all the text out from the slides and populate it into the reference pane. And the way I did that is I literally clicked onto the right-hand side. It says extract text all slides. And it extracts all the text out from the PowerPoint slides or the accessible PDFs. One, it makes it more legible, but the other thing is I can display it in any font I want. I can also have it spoken back to me because it has a built-in text-to-speech.
The ethics of T. Economics. Module, Development Economics.
If I need to, I can export all this out, print it off onto a Word document. I can export the audio out. and listen to it on iTunes or an album. But what you've done here now is the student is now able to actually create their own study source, their own notes at their own pace and time. But you can kind of see the full process they go through to allow them to retain more information. My recommendation is that definitely the first semester, as Robert rightfully suggested, drip feed the features to the students. You'll see some students will pick it up a lot quicker than others, but in that first semester, if a student's just even using one color highlight and all they're doing is just record, color highlight, and maybe some notes here and there, perfect. That's the first major step towards that independence of note taking. But the big utilization really has to be that getting them to record and at least utilizing one color highlight. It's such a big step for them. Okay, I did mention the app over to you guys. What the app allows the student to do is the student will be able to record and do all the color highlighting on it. The other thing you probably heard me say earlier was some of the new features we introduced, right? So what these features are, on the app, we've introduced the scribble feature, which essentially allows you to write an equation, draw a diagram, and scribble that straight onto the app, and it will populate when you transfer it over straight into the images section. You can actually take a picture of a blackboard and actually superimpose your scribbles on that, and that's pretty cool too. The other thing that we've introduced as a new feature this October, for those who are not aware, we introduced a feature called text audio linking. You'll see this little chain icon that's next to each pane. So if I select that, it highlights it. What that does is, let's say I was in a live lecture environment and I was recording. Anything I typed live at that point would actually link straight to an audio bar. And I'll show you exactly what I mean. So let's say I start recording from this point, and as I was recording, anything I type now, so typing notes, you will notice are grayed out, and they link to a specific audio bar. So when I go back to it, I can actually select the exact word, and it'll show me the exact audio bar it was linked to. So I can go back to a point of the lecture where I type certain things and refer back to the audio piece. So that's giving you a brief glimpse. Obviously, when we do a training and setup with you, when we do your pilot or any sort of implementation, we go through a full training process for yourself or any of your staff to ensure that you guys are fully equipped to train your students yourselves. As Robert also mentioned, we do run the Sonocent 101s, which are designed for students on a beginner level to actually understand the software. There's also a Sonocent 201, which is for more the advanced users. So the students really utilizing Sonocents for study strategies to really use it as an educational tool. So that's given you guys a brief glimpse of the software. We've got a little bit of time left now. So Robert, I'm happy to take some questions if you are.
Yep, absolutely.
So just also, by the way, I've put down, if you guys do want to follow in Robert or Robert's footsteps, University of Dayton's footsteps, and you guys do want to go through that whole pilot program with Sonocent, we are launching it again for spring 2018. I've put details down here where you can get information on this. So there's my email address and the number, but there's also that web page there where you can populate your details, and we will be in touch with you to get you set up for that. So with regards to questions, and so I'm just going through a few of the questions here.
Oh, so we did get some. Okay.
Yes.
I thought the silence was representative that we didn't. Like, wow, we did a perfect presentation then.
No, I'm sure your part was perfect. But so one of the questions that has come forward, and this is from a community college, and they said they have a very large community college with just over 75,000 students. Do we do institutional licenses with more than 25 licenses? Yes, we do, but not with regards to the pilot. So in the pilot, you get the 25 licenses, but yes, we do site licenses. We do have quite a few institutions that have already started to go towards that path. So if you need more information on that, please do get in touch with me and I can get you more information with regards to that. So we've got another question with regards to data on usage for each license. And now with regards to usage data, currently, what you were able to tell before the new version release was whether the student installed it or not installed it. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Robert, but that's what you're able to tell, whether they installed it or not installed.
With the new version, and I think you can see whether they're using the app or not.
Yeah, so we've added that aspect now. So now you're able to get a tick mark also whether they're using just the software or are they using the software and the app. So at least you're getting that side of it too. Now, a very good friend of mine, Linda Petty's here too. So Linda, I wanted to say hi to you. So thanks for joining also. So Linda's asked with regards to specific data and information. What I was going to do is actually put Robert's email address down. So my colleague Hannah is going to populate that over onto the chat box. If you guys do need any sort of specific information, Robert's happy to answer your questions with regards to this. And in terms of actual data with regards to that, there are other institutions that measured specific data in terms of GPA increases and things like that. So I do have other studies from different institutions, Linda, if you need those, but I can probably get those over to you. I remember the last webinar I did was with George Mason University, so they were measuring that specifically. So I could get that over to you too if you need that. Okay, here's a good question there, Robert. And it's probably one that I'll be curious to see your answer with regards to this. So this is more with regards to the assumption that students knowing what is important before it's spoken and having the time to change the color for the sound segments. So how does the software really address that? I mean, how does a student know what's important to that part, or is there another way they can address this?
Wait, is that meaning like knowing it's important in time enough to activate the appropriate color coding?
Yeah, I think they're almost like two questions. Like, how would the student actually know that it's important to them?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember I had classes where the teacher would actually say, test question. Of course, that's not usually the case, but I don't know. That's a really good. I guess that's where it really comes into play when you determine it's important. You can start marking it, but if you want to go back and mark more of it as important, then you can select the additional bars that you want to color code.
Yeah, and one other thing that I was going to say is that with regards to, I've seen one student, for example, the way they utilize this, they literally had 3 color codes. One was just homework assignment, and the other 2 was don't understand, right? So something they didn't quite understand, they just put down don't understand. And the final aspect was just a review one. So, but I remember the student just using, so they took the other view. If it's something they weren't quite sure about, they're using the color highlight for that. So you could almost be certain you're not sure about something versus like whether something's important. So that's why I think it's a very good question. Some students may have that sort of capability where they would actually want to use a color highlight that says important. But for other students, they may want to change the wording and just use a color highlight that says, don't quite understand or relevant to an exam. That sort of thing. The flexibility of having the colors and the text being able to change that, I think is very important. I'm just mindful of time. I think I'll take a couple more questions. So one of the questions that's come up here is with regards to, and I think it's more to do with the transcription element side of it. So this is another new feature that's actually going to be released in November, actually. So it's not been done yet, but it will be released in November. Currently, the software does integrate with Dragon. So if the caveat being the student has to have Dragon. Now, Dragon, like any other automated transcription, you have to take it with a pinch of salt because it does have a lot of errors within it. So you have to train your profile, and it's specifically on that profile that you transcribe it. What we are introducing, actually, and we are going to have the capability for it to be integrated with a human transcription. So this is a paid service, but it will have the capability now to integrate with that. So you'll be able to send your audio straight to a human transcription service. And then it will come back to you and populate straight into your sections. So final question here is more to do with how does, during lecture, how do you return the work with the audio? So it's actually, so the questions, I think it's referring to when you jump on section breaks, if I'm correct on that. So as you're going through the lecture, during a live lecture, all you do is press the enter key and it's still live recording. It'll preserve everything for you. And the app works the same way. You can actually do the section breaks on the app also. Okay. Yes, so we've got another option there. Another question with regards to the trial and pilot. Yes, so that option, it is a free trial and pilot. You will get 25 licenses for a semester, and we will do the training and implementation for you guys to help you guys out too.
I'm sorry,
Perfect.
Amir, I have to go because I have a student that I need to meet with.
Absolutely. Well,
So,
Robert, thanks for your time, and really appreciate it. So it's been great. Everyone else, thank you for attending this. Hopefully it was helpful. And if you guys have any questions, please do come back to us at any point.
yeah, you feel free to contact me as well. Thanks.
Okay. Take care, everyone.